we have arrived at the all-important topic, and that is hierarchy. How to create hierarchy inside a certain amount of text. Because not everything is of equal value. Some things are headlines, some things are paragraph entrances, some things are body text, some things are conclusionary headlines, and we need to differentiate between that. Right now, all of these are exactly the same point size and exactly the same line height. Everything is exactly equal, and that needs to change. Now, but before we go there, I just want to show you something that is quite important. Now, remember at the beginning, all the way in the beginning, we prepared this Google document where we put all of our text and we decided what the headline was, what the entry paragraph was, etc., etc. And we now need to carry that over into here. However, when we do that, we don't just kind of like go whoop like this, copy and then paste everything into the editor all at once. Instead, we do it bit by bit. So we take this little bit here and then paste it here, or we take this little bit here and then we paste it here as a separate box, not together but separate. And that goes for all the rest as well. So this here, for example, is this here, and it's a separate box. It doesn't belong to the one below it. It's a separate thing. And we do that because we may want to move things away from each other and move things closer to each other, which is what we will get to as we continue with this tutorial. It's called clustering, and it's a very important part of it. But now let's just continue with the hierarchy first. There are two ways of doing a hierarchy, and I'm going to show you both of them. And in fact, as a matter of fact, there's also a third one, which is a combined way of doing it. So let me just group these now and make a copy and put that to the side for the second version. This I can now ungroup. And what you need to do is you need to read the text that you are going to hierarchize out aloud. Not read it to yourself quietly inside, but read it out. Because when you read something out, then you will know where the emphasis points are, what is important. Because when you are reading out loud, so that you can hear it, any text, then you will notice that certain things you are saying out much more loudly. There are certain points where you stop, where you don't continue. That's an S. It's a period, a space bar, a space element. And then there are certain things that you read in a more monotonous way, you know, just like, for example, this big chunk here. I would probably, let's just do it. If I read this aloud, what would happen? İkisi de had safhada alışkanlık yapıyor. İkisi de yaratıcılığınızın. See, I'm just kind of like going in a very steady rhythm. But then, if we come up here and read the headline, let me read that. Şimdi gelelim esas konuya. Hazır mısınız? Now, when I said hazır mısınız, I got louder and I got more, I stressed the part that says hazır mısınız. So, that immediately tells us that hazır mısınız is more important. So, these are both the headline, however, hazır mısınız is more important. Now, one way of making this more important is by simply increasing the size. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to increase the size to 45 points. What it was 21. All of them were 25. They were all 25. Now this has become 45. But this is still 25. But it's a headline. It's part of the headline. This is still 25. And it's the entrance paragraph sentence, so it's a little bit more important. And then the body text is 25 as well. So, if we are going to do a hierarchy with size, then this here would also need to get a little bit bigger. Bigger than the paragraph text. So, I brought it up to 32. And I'm just going to put it on a single line. I'm keeping them separate. I'm kind of like placing them randomly. I'm keeping them separate because we'll get to the second part, the clustering part, in as soon as we're done with the hierarchy. Right now I'm just going to keep them equal, actually. So like this. Now, this is 32, but this is part of the headline. This is the entrance line to the paragraph, so it needs to get bigger than the paragraph, but not as big as this one. So let's make this 30, which is too close to 35, to 32, sorry. So this I'm going to actually increase to, let's see, 38. And also again put it back on the thing, and this I'm going to increase now to 50 because as I'm doing it I need to make adjustments. Now let's bring this back here, and let's bring this now down to 28. Oops. Slipped. And move it here. Now this is the paragraph, this is the actual body text, which is 25 right now, and I'm going to bring that down to 24, make it just a little bit less. And this is the continuation of the paragraph. Now why are these two things separate? Because I might want to add something between them. Eventually when I start working on this as a page, I might want to add a photograph or something like that. So let's see, let me just remember, this is 24, so this now needs to become 24 as well, because they both have the same value, they are both paragraph text. I'm going to put it equally. But then we have this here, we have nedan, we have why, because when you read this, then I'm telling you here in this text how social media is and TV are bad for you. You should stay away from them. And then in this last part here I'm saying you know it's bad for you, but you are still sitting there like a slave in front of the screen. And then I say why. So this is quite important. This is as important as this. Yes, okay, this is a headline. This comes all the way at the bottom, but it's as important as this one. So what was this here? 50. So it might be good to make this 50 as well. And let me move it in closer. Now everything here is the same weight, Barlow condensed regular, as you can read here. Barlow semi-condensed regular, same here, same here, same here, and same here. So it's exactly the same font weight, however it is different sizes, and that's what creates the hierarchy. So let's group all of these together now. And just move them over here and get to this one. Now here I'm going to do it differently. I'm actually going to play with weights. So this is the most important one, the headline. I'm going to make that bold. This is not as important as this one, but close. So it's the line that is above the actual headline. So this one I'm going to make semi-bold. This is the entrance paragraph. So this one I'm going to make medium. And these here I'm actually going to make light. And then this one here, I'm going to make bold again. So now we have a different kind of hierarchy, where the hierarchy happens because of the change in weight. But I just want to check one thing. This is 25, this is 25, this is 25. But for some strange reason, the bold looks smaller than the others. You're probably noticing this as well, right? The reason for that is because we have the character spacing. The character spacing is also equal in all of these. It's minus 0.02. But because this is a bold font weight, this becomes too squashed. The characters end up becoming too close to each other. So if I make this 0, let's see, is that enough? We may even need to go up a bit. So let's make it 0.02. And now this looks optically better, but it's still not perfect because of the bold nature. The bold nature of the text makes it actually appear like as if it's from a smaller font size, and even changing the character spacing has not really helped all that much. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and actually make this 1 point larger, and then also do the same thing here, make this 1 point larger, but then also fix this and make it 0.02. So then we have a different kind of hierarchy, which has come about because we didn't really change the point sizes. Okay, we cheated a tiny little bit here and here, but we made the hierarchy basically out of the different weights. But now let's actually, let me just group this, bring it over here, and then make another copy and bring it over here, and take this approach, which also involves size, which only involves size rather, not also, and this one involves weights, and I'm going to combine them now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this quite a bit bigger, like 35, and make this quite a bit bigger, but maybe a little bit less big than this here, because when we start combining weights and size, then we have much more ability for variation. Let me reduce this to 24, but I'm also going to lessen the line spacing here, because with the lightweight font, the line spacing actually becomes a bit too much when it's 1.3, which is what I had it as. So let me see, 24 and 1.2, and then the same thing here, 24, and oh, do I already have this at 1.2? Yeah, I seem to. Okay, sorry about that. Now we have this here, and so this is 35. Actually, I'm going to make this even a little bit bigger, like so. And here I have 25, and this is 24. This is too close, so I'm going to actually bring this up to 27. So now what I have in terms of hierarchy is a combination between size, although I didn't make this as big as this because this is bold, and if I were to make it as big as this, then it would become really enormous, more than we would want it to be. Whoops, sorry, I just need to make this bigger as well. I forgot to do that. So I'm going to go to 28 here, and this was 27. Bring this down to 26. You need to play around with it, and it's also a good idea to sometimes just write these in with your hand. And so we have this 28, let's make this 29, just a little bit bigger. So now you have, it's working almost perfectly, but not quite, because when I'm looking here, I'm noticing that in this medium weight, the character spacing is a little bit too much. So we have it at 0.02. I think I'm going to bring this down to 0.05. Or let me see, that might be too much. 0.04. And the reason for that is that with bold and medium, anything upwards from medium, when you decrease the character spacing, the text usually tend to look much better. And that also applies to this here. I think this can also get less. Oh, whoops, this is actually still 0.02, so let me just make this like so. Okay, sorry, this got to be a little bit too much. Let's just make it 0. And now we also have the character spacing sorted out, and so now this is our hierarchy. However, this is still not working, so I'm just going to delete this here, keep this here. However, this is still not working as it should, and the reason why it's not working as it should is because we still don't have any clustering, we don't have any grouping, and for a hierarchy to work there has to be grouping. So I'm just going to make another copy out of this, put it over here so that we can go back to it if we need to. Now the thing with grouping, or clustering as we also call it, is that the idea is that things that belong together should stay close to each other, and things that don't belong together can stay a little bit further apart. So now this is the headline, and these two things are actually the same. They are both part of the headline, so they should be closer to each other. This is the paragraph entrance, which should kind of like come up to here. So the space between this and this should be a little bit more than this here. So I'm just going to go down a tick. So this should be a little bit more than this, because these two belong together. They are the headline, but this is the paragraph entrance, which actually belongs to this. So here I'm going to just bring this, and I need to eyeball this. I need to do this with my eye, because this is a separate box, this is a separate box. I just zoomed in a bit, but I want to have this line spacing almost equal. So let's see. Now this looks almost equal, so that's fine. And then, like I said, this is a separate piece because we might put something between these two things, like a photograph, like I said, or something else. But for now, let's also bring this together so that it's almost the same line height. It's still separate here, you can see. Let's look at it again. Needs to come up just a little bit more. Now it looks about the same. So I'm just going to take these two and just move them down just a tiny little bit from here, because I think I had too little spacing here. And now bring this up to here, but give it a space. Give it a space, because remember what I was saying about reading out loud? Now if you read out loud, let's do it. Let's read this and then this. Ve tabii ki bilinçaltınızda bunların hepsinin bal gibi farkındasınız, fakat gene de esir gibi gözünüzü ayırmadan karşılarında kalıyorsunuz. Neden? See, I gave a space. because when you make a statement like this, then you want to stop a bit, because it's quite a strong statement. It says, you know, subconsciously that all of this is happening, all these horrible things are happening to you because of social media and TV, and you are still sitting there in front of the screen, glued to it like a slave. Now that's a strong statement. Once you've made such a strong statement, you want to give it a stop. You want to stop for a minute and let this information sink in to the other side, and then after that stop, you say why, neden. So neden has to be a little bit further apart, but maybe not this much, maybe like this. Let's see. Can come in maybe just a little bit, and then in this way, then you have a fairly decent hierarchy. And the hierarchy is not something, as you can see, that is happening arbitrarily, that you just feel like you want to make this medium, or you feel like you want to make this bold, or put this here and put this there. You make the hierarchy based upon what the text actually says. So what is most important in that text? You read it out loud, you listen to your own voice. Where am I speaking more loudly? Where am I stopping? Where am I reading monotonously? And then based upon all of these, you actually do the hierarchization, and then it actually makes sense. It has to make sense when you read it. A hierarchy has to correspond to the content of the text that you are actually reading. And for that, you can do it with size changes, you can do it with font changes, and then you can combine those two things and have both size and font changes, which is of course the most effective way of doing it. Although sometimes this here can also look very, very nice, but essentially that is how it goes. Now, just before I finish this, I also want to briefly touch upon one other thing, which is that now here I have all of these. Let me get rid of this now. I don't think we need it anymore. However, let me group this and make a copy so that we can compare. Now here everything is the same font. It's Barlow semi-condensed. What you can do, however, is you can also make font combinations. So this is semi-condensed, but then we also have Barlow. We have Barlow, let's see, do we have the Barlow semi-bold? We have extra bold and semi-bold. We don't have the bold. For some reason I don't seem to have uploaded that, but let me just go with the bold here. Now what I have done is I have actually brought in a new font. Well, it's still Barlow, it's still the same family, but I have brought in a new font, and I can do that again. So I can this was bold. Oh, this was semi-bold. So let's see. So if I make this Barlow medium, it's not Barlow semi-condensed anymore. It's a different font now. And then the paragraph entrance can also become Barlow medium. But when we get to the body text, there we stay with the semi-bold. Why? Because we need to have people read it. This neden can also become Barlow, just regular Barlow. Now here with these I can go to regular fonts, not semi-condensed fonts, because there's much less to read and it won't be very difficult for people to read it. But with this one here I stay exactly with the semi-condensed version, because this is paragraph text, and if I also make this the regular Barlow, then it will be more difficult to read it. Now with the regular Barlow, since this is not a condensed font but a rounded font, I can decrease these character spacings, which will make it look much better. this is all, hold on. Yeah, for some reason this was already in good shape. Now as you can see, or let me just zoom in, when you have the regular version of a font, let me just bring this back to 0.02, but I'm not going to go fiddle around with this right now. I want to do it quickly, but let me just do this. Regular fonts, that have no condensation at all, will usually, in headlines and things like that, will usually look much better if they are closer together, such as what I did just now. They will form a better compact structure. And in fact, as a matter of fact, with this one too, I'm going to actually change this to 0.05, which will make it look even better. And then with this one too. So it's still the same family, it's still Barlow, but it's two different fonts now. So I am combining fonts. I'm making font combinations. Here I only made weight combinations. Here I'm making font combinations as well, and I'm going to add one more to that right now. So okay, so this is still in the open thing that we had right here. It's exactly the same thing here, but because this is Barlow and this is Barlow semi-condensed, this looks much more open. So what we had here is 0.04, so this needs to become 0.04 as well, and maybe even 0.05. Let's see. Yes, 0.05 I think is going to work even better here. Oops. Let's see. Nope, it's too close. Right. But there are other ways of adding to the hierarchy, which actually have to do with the body text itself. Now, there are some things you can do to emphasize certain words or certain sentences, but again, you have to read the text. You have to find what is really important. If I read this here, it says sağduyu denen şeyin başlıca iki düşmanı So here's something. It says both of them are constantly lying to you. So this is an important thing that we can emphasize. So let's just go here and just take these three words and the exclamation mark, and we can make this bold. And that way now we have also put an emphasis inside the paragraph text itself. However, when I look at it, then let me just redo it real quick. When I look at it, it becomes a little bit too emphasized. So it starts competing with the headline and this, so we don't want that. So let's select it again. And we had made it bold, and that turned out to be too strong. So let's try medium now. And that seems to work a little bit better. But I have a feeling, since that this font here is actually light, that the regular will do the trick as well, because we don't want to make it, no, this is too much, this is too little, so we need to have the medium. So one of the ways in which we can further create hierarchies is also by making certain parts of the text in bold. Now if you noticed, I didn't let me just go back here. I didn't do this. I didn't just take this and make it bold, because when I do that, then I don't get the exact value that I want. So this is actually okay now. I can leave it like this because this has in fact turned it into kind of a value between medium and regular, which seems to be working okay. But there are situations where when you just press that bold automatically, then it will become too bold. So try it, but the smarter way to go about it is to just select whatever it is that you want to emphasize and then choose your own value, which would in this case be medium, which is a little bit more than what we have here. So no, this is too much. So let's go back to what the Wix editor did when we pressed on bold. So that's one other way of doing an emphasis, a hierarchy, and emphasizing certain parts within a text. But then there's also something else that we can do. We can also highlight certain parts of the text. So if I select these three words and I put a highlight behind them, so I make the highlight black, and then I select the text again and I make it white, then that is another way of creating a hierarchy within a paragraph text. So I'm actually going to go back to the bold. I think that was where, oops, sorry. When I did undo, it went to a place that I didn't want it to go, so this seemed to be working better, so let's do that. So this brings us to the end of the hierarchy tutorial, which was one of the most important ones that you got in this class in terms of graphic design, because graphic design is all about creating hierarchies with text, with typography. Graphic design is about text, or rather, graphic design is about the spoken word. So the things that you say are the sound that comes out of your mouth gets turned into a visual element, which is typography, which is text. But it's not straight text like you would find in an academic paper or a book or something like that. It is text that is hierarchized like this to correspond to the sound that comes out of your mouth. So I gave you plenty of examples of that. So when you say hazır mısınız, are you ready, that's louder. When you ask the question why, that's louder. Inside the text, the thing about that they are constantly telling you lies. Maybe when you read this paragraph text here, you might very well make an emphasis when you read it out loud. This is more important than this. This you would say in a different way, in a more pronounced way. And those sounds that come out of your mouth, they become visual elements, and those visual elements are typography, and typography is the backbone of graphic design and also web design. We then combine it with other elements, with images, shapes, vector, clip art, stuff like that, all kinds of things. But the basis of graphic design is what I showed you in this tutorial, which is hierarching the spoken word. Not reading a text, but reading it out loud, speaking it out loud, and that's what this is all about. Bye.